Today we are comparing NCIP to NFIP. So stay tuned in this video if you are a homeowner, if you're an insurance agent trying to compare the differences between the National Catastrophe Insurance Program and the National Flood Insurance Program. Hello, my name's Chris Green, president and owner of the Flood Insurance Guru. And for the last 12 years, I've been helping people overcome the obstacles of understanding flood insurance and high flood insurance premiums. You see, I bought a house just like this right here in a high-risk flood zone about 12 years ago and was told the premiums were going to be $3,000 when they should have been $300. I know the struggles that you're facing. But today, we are comparing the National Catastrophe Insurance Program, also known as NCIP or CAT coverage, to the National Flood Insurance Program or the Federal Flood Insurance Program. The goal at the end of this video is that you understand that maybe which one of these options is the best option for you. Let's start with the National Flood Insurance Program. On residential properties like the one you can see right here behind me, they offer coverages on the building up to $250,000, $100,000 on contents. Those are the two main coverages you have with the National Flood Insurance Program. They offer replacement costs up to that $250,000. Also offer contents coverage. But remember, they're not offering replacement costs on your contents. That means if you have a couch, if you have a TV that's 10 years old, they're going to give you the money it would cost to replace it 10 years ago. Now let's talk about NCIP, also known as CAT coverage. They offer coverages on buildings like this up to $5 million. Now, what's important to understand that there are some limitations here in contents coverage, but they generally will offer up to 50% of whatever you're covering the building for on contents coverage. That means that if you're insuring a building for $500,000, you may be able to get $250,000 in contents coverage. This is important because remember, the National Flood Insurance Program only offers $100,000 in contents coverage. Also important to understand that NCIP also offers replacement costs in your contents. Also, when it comes to coverages, maybe this isn't your primary structure. Well, the important thing is that NCIP will offer replacement cost on that secondary property. It's also important to understand, maybe you're an investor, maybe you've got multiple buildings. Well, if you go to the National Flood Insurance Program, costs could add up because you're having to do all these different policies. Well, the NCIP, you could actually put all these on one policy, whether it's commercial or residential. It's a great benefit there, especially when it comes to things like fees. Because remember, the National Flood Insurance Program is going to charge you a $250 surcharge if it's not a primary resident. You're generally not getting charged this with NCIP, also known as CAT coverage. Now, what about additional living expenses? Remember, we mentioned that NFIP only offers building coverage and contents coverage. NCIP offers additional living expenses. Remember, if a house like this floods and you need a temporary place to live, this is where temporary living expenses come into play. You see, we actually had a customer that was insured with NCIP on a claim in 2018 in Nebraska, and she had 6 months of a hotel paid for when her neighbors did not because they had federal flood insurance policies. So you see, additional living expenses can play a big role here. Also, something that NCIP and CAT coverage offers in some situations is basement contents coverage. Now, this could be big because the National Flood Insurance Program limits these coverages, usually the things that make the property safe, like your circuit breakers, your staircase, foundation walls, things like this. So if you have a finished basement, you can have a rude awakening come claim time. Now let's talk about wait periods. Remember, the National Flood Insurance Program has a 30-day wait period unless it's for loan closing. NCIP has a 15-day wait period unless it's for a loan closing. Remember, for a loan closing, neither one of these have a wait period. Now let's talk about pricing. With pricing now, generally flood zones no longer impact the rates with the National Flood Insurance Program and really even with NCIP. Instead, they're using things like flood risk scores, replacement cost of a property, distance to water, the type of flooding that occurs in the area. All these different things are going into the pricing models for the National Flood Insurance Program and NCIP. However, NCIP is using a lot of different technology that in many situations makes your premiums about 40% less than the Federal Flood Insurance Program. So it's important to understand there. So today we've talked about coverages, we've talked about pricing, we've talked about wait periods. Now let's talk a little bit about claims, because look, it doesn't matter how great you think your insurance is, it doesn't matter till claims time. Remember, with the federal program, you've got to go through the federal government, whether you're using a write your own company or not, they're still going through that process. With NCIP though, you're being able to cut out a lot of that red tape, so you may be able to speed up that process of getting a claim settled. You see, many times flood claims may not be settled for 6 months, 9 months. In fact, we saw a federal flood insurance claim more than 2 years later that still had not been settled. Crazy, isn't it? However, with some of these NCIP claims, we see in many situations where they're settled in less than 90 days, which is really good for a flood claim. So these are some of the big differences between NFIP and NCIP. Now, if you want to know the difference differences between private flood insurance and the federal program, click up here in the corner and watch this video that kind of explains some of these differences here. If you're ready to take the next steps to purchasing flood insurance, it's simple. Click down here in the description, go to our website, and there's 3 simple steps. Step 1, fill the form out on our website. Step 2, connect with one of our flood risk advisors. And step 3, pick the plan that best fits your needs. Thank you.